Uh, so as I mentioned before, this is apps.com presents Get Your Business Ready for Year End. We're going to demo three apps, HubDoc, LivePlan, and MethodCRM. Today is November 11th, and my name is Hector Garcia. This is in collaboration of QuickBooks Academy and apps.com. Real quick about myself, I work and live in Miami, Florida. I'm an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro advisor. I teach QuickBooks pretty much for a living. I'm also a practicing accounting professional, so I do both QuickBooks training and accounting work. Um, the learning objectives for today are to navigate apps.com, understanding what the apps.com ecosystem looks like. Also, is understand the functionality of these apps that we're going to demonstrate and see how the year-end closing experience can be enhanced. And finally, identify the type of clients that could potentially benefit from these apps, and most importantly, the consulting opportunity that you have as accounting professionals to recommend this app and integrate it into QuickBooks. Now, to receive CPE credit, you must stay for the entire webinar or at least 50 minutes. You will get a CPE keyword somewhere in the middle or towards the beginning of the webinar. I recommend that you write that one down. And towards the end of the webinar, we're going to ask the question. You have to answer that correctly, and the certificates are going to be emailed to you within 3 weeks. So please give it about 3 weeks for that to be emailed. And just make sure that you put accountant_training at intuit.com in your approved sender list to avoid those CPE certificates going straight into the spam folder. All right, so here I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that link because if you've never been in this webinar before, the one that we did Introduction to Apps, I'm going to strongly recommend that you take a look at that video. We can explain the whole process of apps. So here on the chat screen, I went ahead and I put it. So after this webinar, you can see it. This is the Introduction to Apps and understanding the ecosystem and why using third-party apps with QuickBooks. That's all explained in that one. Now, real quick, a summary of that. In context of QuickBooks, an app it's an application designed to perform a function that QuickBooks is not necessarily designed to do, or it goes beyond what QuickBooks can do. In some cases, apps themselves can do things very similar to QuickBooks, like as in the case of MethodCRM. We're going to show you how you can actually perform QuickBooks functions inside Method. But some of these apps are meant to go beyond that, and Intuit or QuickBooks is not going to make QuickBooks go beyond the core accounting functions. The idea is that QuickBooks stays as the core accounting function, where the common denominator, which is the customer's name, invoice information, employee's name, that common denominator is the part that we want to avoid doing double data entry. So we use the third-party apps to perform those additional functions. Some apps are platforms in themselves. That means that they can also connect to other apps even outside the QuickBooks ecosystem. And these platforms can also be customized, like in the example of MethodCRM. I'll explain that, the whole platform function. Now, why use a third-party app? This is a very common question that I get is, how come Intuit that just doesn't develop this additional functionality inside the apps? And the idea is that Intuit wants to focus and concentrate their efforts on making sure that QuickBooks Online is a reliable, scalable, and open platform that becomes the operating system of small business, and allowing third-party developers to go beyond that and fulfill micro needs and micro niches and needs that are really in the entire world. So this is going to continue to be a pattern where you're going to see developers create stuff that QuickBooks cannot do, and we just have to embrace that. That flavor for different functionalities is probably best to be looked at in an app. So the third-party apps that we're going to talk about today is going to be HubDoc. In summary, it's all the financial documents in a single place, and they're fetched automatically, and I'll kind of show you how that works. And then we're going to talk about LivePlan, which does business plan forecasting and dashboards. And then finally, we'll talk about MethodCRM, which is a customer relationship management tool, basically for a place for you to manage your customers, your leads, your activities, and it was built just for QuickBooks. Now, I want to start adding some context here, because the word year end and the word end year, they actually do mean the same. It's like potatoes, but I want to make sure that we kind of split them into two. We want to split year end as typically the work that we do now in fall and winter. So between October and December before the year closes. And we're going to concentrate on getting things ready for closing, not so much making the actual closing and adjustments themselves. Now, the type of work that we do at year end, or the type of work that I do at year end, it's more on the proactive advice approach. So, what things can the customer do before we close in the year to have better results? Whether it's tax planning, whether it's cleaning up your client list, whether it's creating budgets or forecasts. I mean, there's many things that we can do. Also, getting the documents ready, that sort of thing I like to do proactively a year end, so not at the end of the year. So end of the year is typically when the year ends, and that's really what most accountants call tax season, which is typically when we actually get all the banks reconciled, we get everything closed up, we make the adjustments, we make the tax reporting. And typically at this point, we can't do much proactive advice. We're more in the reactive advice zone, which is still very important, right? There's a lot of important reactive advice that accountants do. But the focus on this webinar is not on the reactive advice, it's going to be on the proactive advice. So this is the typical things that accountants do. So I'm going to go outside of this webinar here. What are the typical things that accountants do or they associate with year end? So we gather documents, receipts, bank statements, credit card statements, and we organize them and put them in a place that when we go make the closing, they're available. We also make adjustments, close the books. We prepare and compile financial statements and possibly do some tax planning consultations. This is the typical work that we do. The work that I like for you to encourage you to do, and some of the stuff that I do on the consulting piece, is proactive services. And I'm going to specifically say which are the 4 most important proactive services that I like to do before the year ends. So one is helping their clients get a digital system to store their documents. And most importantly, it needs to be a cloud-based system because their computer goes bad and their documents go bad. So helping the clients get on a cloud-based system is one of the things that I do. Now, I recommend HubDoc. I also recommend ShareFile. I recommend many options out there depending on the client needs. Okay, in this particular webinar, we're going to talk about just one specific, and I'll explain to you why and when I recommend that one. The other function that I like to do before the year ends, right? Because during tax season it's way too chaotic to talk about budget and forecasting. So if I wait until after tax season, April 15th, May, and start doing budgeting and forecasting, we're already almost halfway through the year and we weren't able to do much proactive advice. So this is the best time to give proactive advice about budgeting and forecasting is before the year ends, so the client starts building those habits. So creating a business plan for the clients that don't have one, making adjustments to the business plan, amendments to the business plan, that's important too for ongoing work, and hopefully having a way to be able to follow up to see if this business plan has been executed. Or sometimes your client needs an accounting professional or a third party, a consultant, to actually guide them through that process of execution, because a lot of people just don't have the discipline to do it upon themselves. The other work that I do is I help my clients understand their customers' buying patterns. I do consulting with pricing and say, hey, let's take a look at your pricing. Let's say, are you pricing correctly? Let's take a look at which customers are profitable, which customers are, requiring a lot of help and support, which customers are becoming more painful than joyful, and help people organize their customer list and the revenue. That's the most important piece, and organize the revenue based on priority, based on category. And this is when I use a CRM system, and I'll talk about that towards the end when I do method. And then I also like to help my clients understand their marketing performance. So the marketing dollars can be one of those areas that they invest in and they don't really see the money again because it's not something really tangible. So by setting up a CRM system, we're able to track where their new customers are coming from. Whether they're being referred, whether they're seeing a commercial that they put on TV, or they're seeing an ad they put on the web, whatever. And then we'll try to help my clients identify where all these leads are coming from, so they can track their marketing investment and make better decisions, going back to budgeting and forecasting, making better decisions on how much to budget for marketing and how much to forecast that the new business that's going to be coming in from the marketing investments they made. All right, so that's basically in summary the four types or the three types of work that I do during year end, that I call it year end work. It's not the traditional tax return adjustment work. This is more the proactive advice work. So the first app we'll talk about is HubDoc. Now, HubDoc, I'll describe it in these four bullet points. It's a single place to store all your financial documents. It has a document aggregation system, or I'm going to call it AutoFetch, where basically logs in into every bank and every major financial institution and downloads the bank statements, the transactions for you, so you have them all in a single place. If you scan a receipt, you can also classify that and sync that with QuickBooks, so you don't have to rekey it in QuickBooks. And if you use Bill.com, it syncs with Bill.com. That's actually a really wonderful thing. So I'm going to go through the slides first, and then I'll just go ahead and do a live demo right after. So the first thing is get HubDoc connected to major banks. Now, not every single bank in the world is here, and this list is growing and growing, but the top 20 major banks in the United States are all here, and also major providers like Verizon, Comcast, Amazon, PayPal. So all these transactions that you or expenditures you have through these providers, they download as well. Now, one of the real neat things is that it will also download the bank statements, the check images, and the deposit images. That to me is really, really big, because you have to go back and chase all that stuff from your clients. Now, this is what it looks like. Basically, it's organized by bank account, and it downloads them, and it stores them all in PDF, organized by bank account. Now, one of the major issues that I have with clients, especially at the end of the year, not so much year end, so we're talking about during tax season, is a client had a bank account that closed. Right, so they closed the bank account, I don't know, in July, and now it's a big drama to get that bank statement. They have to go to the branch and they have to request it, or send a fax somewhere. So what I like to do proactively is get my clients into HubDoc. That way, all their current bank accounts download, and even when that bank account closes, all the stuff is stored in HubDoc forever. So I don't have to deal with trying to chase these closed bank accounts. I think that's another really important area. Now, the other really cool thing I like about HubDoc is it not only downloads the PDF statements, it also downloads the Excel or the CSV version of it, of every single statement. So you can have basically an Excel file for every single month with all the transactions, which is useful for some long bank reconciliations. Is useful because you can do some sort of fancy stuff in Excel, and pinpoint patterns and stuff like that. So I really like having the CSV transactions as well. And finally, from the slides, and until I jump into the live demo here, finally from the slides, if you don't have a login, to go into a bank and download the files, you can also manually upload any documents you want, right? So that could be a receipt, it could be a bank statement that you got, through mail that you scan, and you can upload it through the portal, this is what it looks like when it's on the website. You could take a picture with a phone through the app, and also you're going to be given an email, a special HubDoc email, that you can just basically save into your contact list, and then anything you get via email, you can just forward that, and that shows up into HubDoc. And I think, yeah, that's it. So let me go ahead and show you HubDoc. Let me log into my demo account here. And while that happens, I want to check, Wendy, are there any questions so far that I need to answer while I log into this account?
No questions yet, Hector.
Okay. All right, perfect. I don't think I said much anyway so far that we can actually have questions. So I have this demo account that I use for HubDoc for all my demonstrations. This actually contains a lot of bank accounts that I use, none of my client stuff, but just my stuff. So I want to show you kind of how this works. So this is what HubDoc looks like. And HubDoc, you set up, this is my account that I use for my own accounting. But if I have a client on it, then I would have a different sort of access point for each one. So if I go to here where it says accounts, not accounts, sorry. If I go to I'm going to go to log out page and log back in to show you. So I'm going to log in to HubDoc, and then basically you're going to see I have the QuickBook bookkeeping. This is my own account, and then here this one is one of my clients. So it's just sort of simple. So when I have all my clients on my other account, they're all showing up there. This is for my demo purposes. So in here I have Chase LinkedIn, I have American Express LinkedIn, I have Bank of America. All this stuff is linked, and the process is pretty simple. We go to Add Account, and then we choose the bank that we want to link. So let's say, for example, it's going to be Chase, and then I put my actual Chase username and password. So one of the important things about this is I'm logged in through HubDoc now myself, and so I'm logging into my own accounts. So if I assign this as a client account, my client is going to have their own login, and then my client, so we're talking about the accountant's client, they can actually log in and set up an account for themselves, right? Or we can set it up through our portal, and they will connect with the bank. So my client doesn't have to give me the username and password. They can connect their Chase, Bank of America, American Express, whatever. They connect all these accounts, and once they're all connected, they show up here through my portal. So I'll show you. I'm going to go here in American Express. I have 3 American Express accounts. One of them has been closed, by the way, but it's still showing there because it's all downloaded. So if I click on any of these, I actually have every single one of the letters I received from American Express, these, and the credit card statements, if you can see that, credit card statements, and they're all going to be stored here forever. Okay, so that's one of the great things about it is if I get my client connected into HubDoc, doesn't matter at what point, if it was January, if it was December, this system will go back and download every single statement that the bank allows them to download. So I think Chase can do 18 months and Wells Fargo can do about 18 months. Bank of America can do like 7 years. So I mean, so it could really, it could be really flexible. And I also want to show you, I'm going to go here, Bank of America. I'll click on these Bank of America, and I'll show you one of my credit cards here, and see that downloads automatically. So these are basically, I didn't upload any of these things. These things, I put the username and password, and they upload it automatically. And look, I have all my bank statements organized here. So this is actually something I really love about it. So I'm going to just show you here the CSV file real quick. So if I wanted to see the transactions, and you can actually download the CSV file that you can open in Excel. And if you're an Excel lover like I do, you can do pretty interesting things with Excel file. So that in summary is HubDoc. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide, which is, all right, perfect. So let's move on to LivePlan. So I'm going to go through the slides first and then go through the demo and kind of explain what I do with LivePlan on my year-end work with my clients. So to summarize LivePlan is we create a business plan from scratch. Then we can actually go back and do revisions from it. We can use existing, just take this out here for a second because we made some corrections to the slide. We can create forecasting, and we have some sophisticated methods to create forecasting. We can use the QuickBooks information as a model, but it doesn't import the QuickBooks information, but we can use it as a model to build a forecast. We can compare company performance with peers. So we have benchmarking. So depending on the industry, so if you're retail or if you're construction, it would actually compare how you're doing, and that could be a simple to use and simple to read dashboard. So this is basically what it looks like. And we're going to go ahead and do a demo for that. And there's basically 2 major functions of it. So we have the business planning function and the forecasting function. Some of the lighter functions are the benchmarking, which I'll show you real quick, but the core of it is business planning and forecasting. And forecasting is specifically the area that most clients actually ask for. This business plan, I would say not so much. Clients do ask for business planning, but I find it that forecasting is truly one of the one of the areas that people want help with. And then lastly, we'll talk about the easy dashboards, which just create a very easy visual way to analyze the numbers of the company. Okay, so let me go through the demo here. And I have 2 accounts here, so I'm going to close one. Okay, there it is. So that's what LivePlan looks like. And this is a demo account that already has a whole bunch of data in it. So I want to to show you what it looks like when it's basically completed, and then I'll show you how to kind of put it together when you're building it from scratch. Okay, so this is a Gary's Bike Shop, and basically we're on the pitch section. So in the pitch section is basically a summary of all the company's information. So the opportunity, like what problem we're solving, the solution, the target market, and I'll just show you when we click in here. It basically guides you to the process, and we can actually come in here and create what our segments are and what our target markers are. This is obviously designed for pitching an idea, or for pitching to investors, or pitching to the bank if you're trying to get a bank loan or something like that. So this is a place where you actually type up your target market, and then type up your how many potential customers you can have on each segment, and how much revenue you're going to get from each one in terms of what the marketplace looks like, or how much revenue people spend in this particular category. And we're a bike shop, so this information is not provided for you. You actually have to hunt this information down, but this is a place where you actually gather and put this together. So and you can actually put everything in here, right? So you're going to put your summary, you're going to put like the headline, you're going to put the competitive landscape. So basically guides you through each section of the business plan. So you don't really have to type up a Word file from scratch, or build a business plan from a template. This is something that you can go back, edit, publish, republish, and at the very end, it can actually create a presentation. So actually, I thought this is actually extremely cool. Is you put together a business plan. It could take you. I mean, it will take you a good business plan. Could take you 3 or 4 hours sitting down with your client and going through everything. But if you were to do it from a template, this could be a couple of days worth of work. But you can actually build based on all the information that you put together. You can build so basically, I opened a different PowerPoint. This is the PowerPoint that you put together after you put a business plan. So this is sort of the summarized version of the business plan, all split into sort of spreadsheet format. And that's actually one of the real nice things about this pitch option. Now I'm going to click here on plan, and then I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this type of stuff that we do on a business plan. So the pitch portion is a very summarized business plan. It's just there for you to build a presentation, and basically for you to do something within 5 minutes or 10 minutes type of presentation. To have a complete build business plan, it actually walks you through based on the common business plan organization technique. So we start with company overview, and then we have who we are, and basically we click in here, and this is the part that you do. You're going to come in here, and you're actually going to type, right? So you're going to type in who we are, right? And you type that in there, and if you click on examples, it does give you some examples, right? So you can actually read the examples and say, okay, that's a pretty good idea. You can actually copy and paste that example, or click on add this example to the plan, and then you can just basically retype the correct information, right? So the actual information that's going to go there that pertains to your business. And you go through everything. You go through financial summary, and in the financial summary, I'm going to click on edit to show you. In the financial summary, we can edit this information, change the title. We can get information about revenues. We can get information about expenses, and this is all pre-built into our forecasting module, which I'll go there in a second. And then I'm going to click here on financial plan just to show you, and then we have revenue forecast. This is a really big area where we actually this is part of the forecasting section, where we actually tell it what we plan to sell next year, and it compares it with what you sold last year and what you're selling currently. That way you can just make sure that this makes sense. So I'm going to jump in and actually build the forecast, so you see how this process is done. So let's say that it's November, right? It is November. So let's say it's November 15th, and we know what we sold last year. We know what we sold this year. And we want to sit down with our clients and do some planning for next year. So we can actually, and this is all sort of a chart of accounts that we get from QuickBooks. So we organize this the same way as the major categories within QuickBooks. And then we click on each category, right? And then we say, okay, so we know what we're going to sell, or we forecast we're going to sell based on revenue. And we can click on revenue, and then basically just put in a dollar value there by month. Okay, so that's one way we can do it. The other way is we can do it based on unit sales. Can I show you? So we can actually say, well, this is going to be about, right, about XY units per month, and you give it a value per unit, and that's how you're going to get, that's how you know, or you're going to understand what that total revenue is going to look like. So there's basically just a couple of ways to build the revenue section. And then under direct cost, okay, so we're typically going to have, if we have cost of goods sold, and I'm just going to click on direct cost to show you. So I'm going to call this direct materials or something like that. And we can say, well, this is actually going to be a consistent amount, or it's going to be a different amount over time, or this is actually going to be tied to a revenue stream. So I can say, look, this is tied to maybe that revenue stream. And we can say this is usually about 10% of my revenue stream. So whatever I projected to be my clothing sales, I'm saying my direct materials are going to be about 10%. And basically, once you have a good sound revenue stream projection, building your projections for expenses based on percentages, especially for the direct cost or direct amounts, that becomes sort of an easy thing. Okay, so let me go ahead and delete this one because I don't want to mess with the template that I have here. And I'm going to go into, let me just close that. I'm going to go into personnel. And then, so for personnel planning, this is also really interesting because not a lot of business planning tools go in depth in terms of personnel planning. So when you go to personnel planning, you say, look, I'm going to have a group of employees. Let's say I'm thinking about hiring 3 salespeople, and then I'm going to call it sales staff, and we'll call it outside or something like that. And then I'll click on next. And then I can say, look, this is regular labor, not direct, right? Because we're going to pay them anyway. And then we'll say, look, we're going to pay these people, let's say $3,000 a month. And then we tell it, when they're going to start working or when we start projecting this. And we can also project, okay, we're going to give them 5% raises every year. And then we're going to go ahead and click save and close. And one of the real cool things about it is you can actually do personnel planning based on groups, and you can also have something called the burden rate. So I'm going to show you burden rate. So burden rate is for us to add workers' comp, insurance, payroll taxes, pretty much all the benefits that have to do with employees. We just basically pick up a percentage amount, add it in there, and then this starts getting built into our forecasting. So under expenses, and we can also group these in a simple way. So one of the interesting things about doing budgets in QuickBooks is that you're going to go line by line. So that becomes a little bit tedious. So you can actually group them and simplify them here. Let's just call this office expenses. And then I can just group multiple expense accounts from QuickBooks into this one, office expenses, and then we can say, look, this is going to be basically 5% of revenues, and then I do save and close, and then that builds into it, and that takes my revenue amount and multiplies it. That way I don't have to sit there and change that or project that to change. So as long as our revenue projections are sound, our expense projections are going to go on without it. And then on assumptions, a really interesting thing about it is if we actually change some of these things out, like if we're going to get paid earlier, right? Or if we're going to purchase more in credit, and this will actually start changing projections about our cash position as well. So if we start saying, look, we're going to get paid faster, we're going to get more credit from vendors, it can actually do some simple cash flow projections, which are really interesting. And then I can also take a look at what the P&L is going to look like. This is basically my projected P&L based on the forecast, and that's a really interesting conversation you can have with your client about what they're going to do with the business moving forward, and where they're going to save in, and that sort of thing. I do want to show you one area that I unfortunately it's not inside LivePlan, but it's actually a pretty easy resource. It's called BaseStatscom. Let me put that I'm going to put that on the chat window here. So I'm going to put it here under the chat, and it's called BaseStatscom. So that way you can have it in your bookmarks there. So I sent it through the chat. So BaseStats.org, basically what this website looks like, and there's sort of a lot of advertising around it. You go to here it says search for industry benchmark reports. And I really like this because we can actually take information about the industry and say, look, maybe we should project expenses based on what a lot of other companies of that um, of this category is doing. So let me go ahead and click on corporations, and then I'm gonna pick the same industry that my client is in. So I'm gonna go to retail trade, and then I'm gonna click on sporting goods. Okay, this is a bike shop, and then I'll click on that. So what I'm seeing here under BizStats, what I'm seeing is that according to, and this is usually tax return information, so it says, according to this, rent should be 7.46% of your sales. Okay, so this is just statistics, right? This is just averages. When I go back into LivePlan and I'm going to project on my rent, right? So instead of using a specific amount like 5,400 a year, I can actually say, look, this should be 7.46% of my revenue. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close, and that's actually going to change what that forecast looks like. Now, rent may not be a great example because rent is not something that we can just choose the amount, right? So rent is based on contracts and stuff like that, but it's just an example, right? So if I had a target, like for example, advertising right now is 30,000. If I wanted to be somewhere around industry average, so here it says it's 0.79%. So if I come in here and use the same, I'm going to round it up to 1%, and then hit save and close, then it's going to change, let's call it my budget, based on that. So now it says that for advertising, I will have sort of a different amount. So let me go here to expenses and then click on advertising, and see now advertising is now $6,000 instead of $30,000 or whatever it was before. So it's just kind of an interesting piece of building a forecast or a budget, is to take external data like the stuff from BizStats and have a discussion with your client. And you don't have to build a plan with this. You can just simply compare your past performance with this, and you can have some pretty interesting conversations about why your client spends more than the average or less than the average and that sort of thing. Okay, so let me go on to the next app, which is MethodCRM. I'll take a quick break to check if there's any outstanding questions. Wendy, are there any outstanding questions?
Yes, Karen would like to know if state and government contracts require business plans.
Well, I mean, so obviously depends on which area of the government, right, and which state we're talking about. But um, so the business plan that you could put together with LivePlan could be done for internal management purposes, and it could also be done for third-party purposes. Let me go back to that real quick. And so there's two types of business plans. The pitch plan, which is sort of that simplified, let's call it sexy version of the business plan that just simplifies and explains, in one or two sentences what the business wants to do. This is not really for a government, right? This is going to be for an investor, uh, mostly for an investor or for a bank, or maybe just for you to, even for a client. Sometimes, before you acquire a client, the client would love to know what your plan as a business is, how you function and how you plan to grow, to see if you're a good fit for the client. The plan section, which is specifically on the financial, on the budgeting and the finance, this is the part where a lot of governments want to see. And your business plan, it needs to make sure that your company shows you profitability and the company shows that you have solvency. So if you create a plan, not only the wording but the actual numerical portion, the financial portion, if you create a plan, you have to make sure that you're planning for profitability and you're planning for positive cash flow. So in a government scenario, the government is not going to be as interested, on the text of the business plan, right? So like what your products and services are, and all that stuff, that may not be the portion the government is so interested in. They may be more interested on the fact that you can sell, that you can stay alive, that sort of thing. Okay, so I want to make sure that all this stuff is useful. And beyond government, there's also banks, right? So banks want to make sure that if they give you, I want to just show you that real quick. I'm going to go here to financing. So if they give you additional cash, right? So if I'm going to add a loan of some sort or a line of credit, they want to make sure that $150,000, $200,000, whatever they're going to lend you, that based on your projections, that you are going to be able to stay afloat, that you're going to stay profitable, that you're going to stay solvent. That way you can pay the loan back. So hopefully that was somehow the answer. All right. Yeah, she answered very good. Thank you. All right. So let me go to the PowerPoint here to talk about MethodCRM. And I'm going to go through the slides first. And it's important to know that if you already have a client with Method, or if you're setting up Method has two versions, right? We have the traditional Method and then the new version. And I may go back and forth for certain things, just because some consultants are still working with methods under the old version. But when I do the demo, I may show a little bit of one and a little bit of the other one. It's still the same program. It's very different, but it's still the same program and the same database. So Method, in a nutshell, allows you to manage activities, opportunities regarding sales and customers. So when we talk about year-end consulting, um, you as an accountant, if you're using a CRM system like Method, you want to put the activities that you plan to do with that client. So set up an appointment and review the books and do tax planning and review pay stubs, whatever it is. So you can use Method for yourself to organize your calendar and your potential activities. You could also use Method to help your clients manage their activities and their leads and help them close some deals before year end, or maybe if they have a couple of really big sales coming in at the end of December, and you're looking at the pipeline, and the client really wants to defer that revenue for next year, so maybe we want to push those activities till January. Some of the fancy things that we do on the tax side. That's kind of some of the things that you can do with a CRM system. Also, one of the things I like to do is I like to group my customers by lead source or by marketing campaign. So I can actually see, I can group customers based on profitability, or I can group them based on where they came from. And also, it helps you clean up your customer list, or segregate your customer list based on priorities, who the good customers are, who the bad customers are, that sort of thing, to help you plan for the future and maybe get rid of some customers, or what we do, we price them out, right? We increase the prices so they leave by themselves if you don't want to get rid of the customer yourself. So this is a screenshot of the old method, and it's very similar to the new one. With this screenshot, for example, I basically have all my customers that are in QuickBooks. Let me show you that real quick, because I think that helps me provide some content. So let me log in. I'm going to log into a QuickBooks and kind of show you that piece. So I'm going to go into customers, and then so basically I have all my customers in QuickBooks, and that in Method is going to be pretty much the same. Let me refresh here the screen, because I was just logging in, and let me just make sure that I'm in the correct account. So let me log back in. So it timed out. Of course, I'm going to forget my password in the middle of a webinar, right? That makes tons of sense. Okay, so there's logging in. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to show you. So this is what the new method looks like, and so I'm going to show you both, because I want to show you things in both of them, because depending on the type of clients you're working with, you may be on the old or the new. But for example, here in the invoice sections, I'm going to click here on invoices, and these are all the invoices that are coming from QuickBooks. So these are all my customers, and I can actually just focus on the overdue invoices. There they are. So these are coming from QuickBooks. So let me just show you. These are actually from QuickBooks. So let me see. This is Cook Brian. So if I look at Cook Brian, okay, I can actually see, and that's the overdue invoice, right? So we're looking at that overdue invoice. This is all coming from QuickBooks. This is not in Method. This is all coming from QuickBooks. It's an open invoice I have. But when I'm looking at my open invoices in Method, I can actually build some custom screens like I did in this one, where I basically hit a button here where it says email overdue, and it'll send a mass email to all my clients that have overdue invoices. Okay, something you could do in QuickBooks, sort of one by one, but I'm just kind of showing you what are some of the interesting creative things you can do in Method. The other interesting things we can do in Method, and I'm going to switch out to another company I have here. So I'm going to switch out to this one, okay, because I have sort of different data on different ones. And while that loads, let me check if I have any outstanding questions. Okay, so somebody asked, can you create invoices directly in Method? And so the answer is, yeah, I can actually. So one of the interesting things about it is Method grabs my entire QuickBooks database and puts it into Method. But if I go to new, I can actually create an invoice straight from here, and the screen looks surprisingly similar to the QuickBooks screen. So I'm just going to pick a customer here. So it looks surprisingly similar to the QuickBooks screen. I can add items from the same item list that I have in QuickBooks. So that's sort of this is not so much of the year-end stuff that you can do in QuickBooks, but I wanted to make sure that we do cover that. But if I go to, for example, contacts, I'm going to click here on my contacts, and then I can click on any of my customers here. So I'll click on this one. Okay, so I can actually add additional information that I normally don't manage in QuickBooks. I can add information like where the customer came from. So let me edit the contact here and show you. So we can have information about where they came from, and this particular screen is not configured that way. I'm going to show you that in the old one, because I have have multiple accounts with multiple versions of methods. So I'm going to show you on the old screen real quick, because that one wasn't there. So what I did was, here are my customers, and these are my customers. These are the same customers from QuickBooks, and I can edit any of these customers. And I have two areas that QuickBooks doesn't manage. One is called lead source, and the other one is campaign. And I want to show you what that means. So this is just basic CRM functionality. If I go edit my customer, so I'm in QuickBooks, I edit my customer, I can put address, I can put phone number, I can put all that stuff, but I don't have a place for me to track where my customer came from or the status of that customer. So when we talk about year end and possibly talking about cleaning up your client list, so one of the things that I do is I have all my clients going to every one of their customers, and we have different campaigns. We have good customer, bad customer. We have customer cleanup. We can have different names here on their campaign. So I have my customers go in there and put bad. So all the customers that they will like to get rid of, not necessarily getting rid of, but some of the customers they would like to get rid of because they're not profitable or something like that. And when they go into each customer, I can't do this in QuickBooks, each customer and mark it back there. If I can create a custom screen that filters the customers, I'm going to click here and here, filters the customer based on that particular campaign. So I can say, look, I want to know all my customers that came from public relations, and then basically that's only one. Or maybe I can remove that filter and say, I want all my customers that are tagged as bad on their campaign, and that narrows those customers down. So if you can actually work with your clients in terms of analyzing the customers' relationships and filtering, let's call it the good ones for the bad ones, or the ones we don't want, we can then narrow down which customers we want to analyze. And then now we can go back into QuickBooks and take a look at the sales history of these, and then decide, which ones we're going to increase prices on, or the ones that we need to get rid of, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of how I picture or how I work in CRM functionality at year end. The other piece I want to show you, and I'm going to switch to the new one. And I apologize that I have to switch back and forth Method New and Method Classic, and it is a little bit confusing, but it's just they're going through that transition of upgrading their system and improving the interface as a whole. So I wanted to just make sure that we see both sides. So under activities, so I'm just going to go back for a second under the premise that we as accounting professionals are going to use Method for our own year-end planning. So under activities, what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and create an activity called Review End of Year Books, right? That's the name of the activity. And then I can, if I have multiple users, I can say, well, this is going to be Hector, or maybe one of my other accountants on staff. I can also create different activity types, like this is going to be a live meeting. And then under status, I'm going to put here, not started, and then due on. And then I'm basically going to start scheduling all my customers between the 16th of November through, let's say, the 15th of December. And then I'm going to put here end. That's going to be on the same exact date, so on 16th to the 16th. And then on the customer, I pick the customer that I'm going to be doing this with. Okay, so let's say that's with Brian Cook. Okay, and that could be, as we go and classify our customers as bad or potentially bad, we can schedule different meetings with them to have different discussions. Okay, just some ideas of the type of things that you can do at year end. But if you're using this in your own accounting firm, right, then you can build this activity, and then I'll go ahead and hit save. Okay, and then I'm going to go into my activities here, and then I can actually see all my activities. Let me just go here, all. I can see all my activities, and then basically I can start scheduling all the meetings that I'm going to have with every one of my clients. So I can start creating all my meetings. Okay, I can start creating all my meetings, and once they're finished, I'll just mark them complete. Okay, and then basically it helps me organize my entire client list. Okay, so that's one of the things that CRM is both for the accounting professional and also for any customers that have end user customers. If you also are using CRM to record every single phone call you have with your client, and I know that's kind of challenging, to think about, but if the user actually puts in here every time that they have a customer call or a support call and they record it here, let's mark that one completed, and they put them on they historically put it in there. If you actually start recording all of the phone calls you have with your clients, and emails and conversations and meetings, and for example, this client is a flat fee client that you don't charge per hour or per meeting, this is more of a flat fee that we do for a whole bunch of stuff. When you go back and you can pull reports, right? So you can go back to your clients, you can go clients and pull your reports, and you can organize these, let's say, only by this particular, I'm going to just search that particular customer, and you actually see every single conversation you have with your client, 3-4 times a month they're calling, and you can start thinking, hey, is it worth it to keep this client? Should we increase the fees? So it also provides some context in terms of not so much number profitability, but also the type of strain or weight that they're bringing on the company. Okay, so I think that's good enough for CRM in terms of what I wanted to show you. Let me see what else we have here. Okay, so I already showed that. Okay, so let me talk about the consultant's opportunity. So this was designed to be sort of a eagle's view of 3 apps that I normally use during year end. So this is in summary what the opportunity looks like. And before I go to that, Wendy, can you tell me if there are any questions that I can answer?
I think they've all been taken care of.
Okay, all right. So I saw some questions there, but I wasn't sure if they were still open. Okay, so the consulting opportunity is, so coming year end, right now, before the year ends, consider bringing clients into HubDoc for the reason that we don't have to manually gather bank statements and credit card statements and check images and deposit images. You don't even have to have your client's username and password for the bank. You set up an account for them, and they log in, and all this information comes in. HubDoc does have a price. It's $20 a month per client. But if you have a bookkeeping engagement and you're spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes a month just gathering documents, $20 a month, it's going to be a given. And as you bring more clients in and you have more clients into HubDoc, because you have to have each client in a separate account, because you don't want them to have access to obviously your other clients' bank information and that sort of thing. The incremental fee per client starts going down. Now for LivePlan is basically a twofold potential consulting opportunity. One is having a platform to create a business plan, to build a business plan, edit it, make changes to it, make projections and forecasts. I strongly recommend that you do that work before tax season, because during tax season, most accounting professions are so busy that you just won't have enough time, and then by April 15th, a quarter of the year is already passed. It's too late. And then Method CRM, I think the opportunity is, as an accounting professional, use Method CRM yourself to organize all the tasks that you need to do to close all your clients and keep track of which client you're doing work on and when. So sort of scheduling activity, and you don't have to retype anything because you have invoice information, you have open invoices, you have contact information, all in Method, duplicated from your QuickBooks Online account, and also help your clients implement a CRM system so they have a great place to follow up, and they have a great place to not just follow up with your clients, but understand which are the good clients and the bad clients, and which clients they need to have conversations about increasing prices and so forth. So I think that's, in a nutshell, the consultant's opportunity. Now, why I want to focus on year end as an opportunity to do proactive instead of reactive, because when we think about year end, we think about closing the books and correcting errors and doing tax planning. That's, most people know that. But what I'm focusing on is the consultant's opportunity. So Doug Sleater at the SleaterCon last year showed this slide. They did some extensive study asking small business owners, why they leave their CPA, right? And the number one answer was that the CPA did not provide proactive advice, only reactive. So it is known in our industry that we are typically so focused on reactive advice that we forget about the importance of proactive advice, and that's because during November, October, December, a lot of us are thinking, well, there's not a lot of work to do, and we're out in conferences. Like this month I got 2 conferences. So this is what I would like to encourage you to focus on reactive advice before the year ends. Use apps like Method, LivePlan, and HubDoc to, number one, simplify the amount of work that you do, and number two, enrich the work that you can do for your clients. Okay, so the apps.com website is the last thing we're going to show you here. And let me see how we're doing with timing. I think at this point we can put the CPE keyword. So I'm going to go ahead and put the CPE keyword so I don't forget. Pricing for Method, I'm having some questions about pricing. Pricing for Method is, let me just double check because I don't remember what I pay for Method anymore. Let me go to method.me and show you method.me. Pricing for Method, I believe, is $40 a month still for the Pro version, which allows you to customize the screens, and it should be $25 a month for the regular CRM tool, which is most of what I showed you. So that's the Method pricing, and then for LivePlan, that should be $20 a month per user, and if you pay it annually, or you add additional licenses, that can go down as you have more. But with LivePlan, it's not about how many people log into LivePlan, and you don't pay really per user, you pay per company. So if you have multiple companies in LivePlan, you're going to pay per each company. So how many people in your organization, or how many people in your client's organization are logging in, doesn't affect the pricing. Okay. So if you go to apps.com, what a great domain name, Intuit purchase. If you go to apps.com, you can actually see all the different apps that are out there. And if you click on browse by category, and for example, we click on CRM, you're going to see Method there, right? Method was the one that we showcased. You're going to see Method. You're going to see Insightly. You can actually sort these by rating. So we sorted by top rated, and you can see which are the ones that have the most reviews, or the most popular ones. And typically it's not refreshing, but I think Method is the top rated one. It should be, because it's one it's the most mature one, the one that's been there for the longest. Right here, Method has over 1,200 5-star reviews, so that's pretty strong. There's other CRM apps out there. There's Insightly, there's Batchbook, there's Legrand, but they don't have as much customization ability as Method has. Now, under, for example, HubDoc, I wonder which area would HubDoc be in. That would be maybe somewhere under document management. Yeah, that makes sense. That should be under document management. So if you see HubDoc there, and there's other document management apps out there, HubDoc is the only one of its kind that can actually download the documents automatically. So I actually like that. I think that's pretty neat. That's why we chose to put that one on the demo. And then if you see a category, and then we go to, I don't think business plan is a category. So let's go to reporting. That because of forecasting, that should be there. There it is. There's LivePlan, and it's also one of the top rated apps in the on the reporting category. So that's kind of how apps.com work. And then you click on any of these apps. Let's say I want to click on this one called Sync with Square, and I want to add it into my QuickBooks file. I just go to Get App Now, and it'll ask you to log in into QuickBooks, and then you can actually see once you're in QuickBooks Online, under the app section, you can actually see all the apps that are connected. So if you have apps connected, you click on the app section, which you can also search apps through here. That's actually a pretty neat thing. So you don't have to go to apps.com. You can actually go into the app section and let's say I want to add LivePlan or whatever. I can do it straight from here. And within your QuickBooks Online account, you can actually choose the app, click on Get App, and it'll connect it. Now, somebody's asking about connecting apps to desktop. That's different, right? So different apps. Not every app connects to QuickBooks Desktop. Most of the new apps are going to connect to QuickBooks Online because that's the ideal platform for connecting. And then inside the apps.com website, you can go to Resource Center. You can read articles like the one that I wrote that was inspired by to create this webinar, and other videos and other recorded webinars, tips and tricks on how to use different apps for your clients. All right, so that's actually the end of the presentation. Let me just make sure that we don't have any more questions before I end this. So Wendy, are there any more questions outstanding before I end the webinar?
Yes, Hector, just one. What are the primary apps that you use in your practice?
So that's a personal question, I guess. So the three that I shown are ones that I use mostly regarding client consulting. HubDoc I use because I just I'm tired of getting paper documents or getting clients to email me the bank statements. So HubDoc is one. We have let me just go back into the apps website here so I can show them contextually here. Another one that we use and I recommend a lot is for time tracking is T-Sheets. And what's nice about this website is you can browse these by, in this case, by we can click on View All Apps, and then we can sort these by top rated. That's actually a really good way to browse apps because that way you can see the ones that have been there for a long time and have really good ratings. So I use MethodCRM for CRM recommended to my clients. I use it for my own practice. I use T-Sheets for time tracking. For expense management, I have clients that use Concur and have clients that use Expensify. I actually like both. They have their own sort of flair. Each one has his own system that clients like more than others. So for expense management, those are really good apps. For accounts payable planning or accounts payable management, Bill.com, it's a great app. For importing data from Excel, you want to use Transaction Pro Importer. For managing accounts receivable, so for reminding clients over and over and over of things that are overdue, we can use. I use Funding Gates, and there's a couple as well. Like for example, Receipt Bank. It's similar to HubDoc. Doesn't really download bank statements for you, but it's more for like sort of capturing stuff from your phone. And then SOS Inventory if you want to do more, take inventory to the next level, because QuickBooks Online is pretty weak with inventory. The 1099 tool by Intuit, I use that at the end of the year to prepare 1099s from QuickBooks Online without having to retype anything. Fathom is also a really neat reporting tool. QVinci for consolidation. So if I have multiple clients with multiple financial statements from multiple QuickBooks files, and I want to have one app that can actually put them all together in one shot, we use QVinci. And we use the PayPal app and the Square app sometimes, depending on the need. We use that one quite a bit. And Finagraph is also really neat for financial projections. It actually goes a little bit beyond LivePlan on the reporting part, but it doesn't really do any of the business planning. And I would say, can't forget Spotlight reporting is also a really neat one. Certain clients want reports a very certain way, and Spotlight reporting provides that. So these are the ones that I can just on top of my head, that I've been using for my own practice, for clients that I consult with. So hopefully that was a good sort of Reader's Digest version of that question. Wendy, are there any more questions, or are we ready to wrap this up?
No more questions.
All right. So thanks everybody for participating. When you get the email about the feedback, don't forget to provide the feedback. It's very important for me, for Intuit, to know and understand, how valuable these webinars are and know what areas we can do to improve. Thank you very much for participating. Until the next webinar. Have a great day.